Next step would be for this council, now that we've heard many residents and their thoughts on it, to open it back up. I'll just refresh everyone's memory. Earlier in this agenda item, Councilman Lay had made a motion to approve. And I won't restate, but general gist was the odd number of 9 to 15. And with the general proposal from the petitioner, I hope I captured that well, Councilman Lay? Okay. And then it was also seconded, of course, by Tim Sweeney. So I'd like to open it up to my colleagues first, get your thoughts on it, and then we will call for a vote. Go ahead, Tony.
Mr. Chairman, I know I've been very quiet, so I guess I have an opportunity now. Thank you. No, I would like to go back to the question to Rob, okay? Why a town-sponsored organization and not a citizens group that will bring, I mean, I'm not burying my head in the sand and saying that we may not have some issues around town, not at all. However, I do question again, why a sanctioned group rather than a citizens group, if I might ask, Rob?
So he is not in our panel at the moment, and he's being brought back into the panel. Rob, you can now respond to that if you would.
Thank you, Councilman Texera. I really appreciate that. So as I mentioned earlier, I think one of the things that's important about public discourse is the ability to bring together, as we heard today, a range of different voices and a range of different considerations and thoughts that we have in our town. I think that's one of the most important things that being part of the town would do. But I would also say too, we have a number of different commissions in our town that look at conservation or historic work or do prevention or coalition, all these types of things. We ask ourselves this a lot, right? Is this something for the town to be directly engaged in? Or is it something to have to be independent? I think of the words of Dr. King, who talked about the fierce urgency of now. And we have an opportunity now to do great work and to do hard work together. And doing that is something that we can do together. And as a town council, and through the deliberative process, it adds a legitimacy. And to emphasize as well, it is in support of our council. So it works in partnership with our town. There are tough decisions and tough choices to make. And if there are residents that are ready to help and support that work at the service of the council and of the town, I think there's a great opportunity to put them to work. And thank you for your question, Councilman. And thank you very much for your time and thought on this issue. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, there was in our packet, we received quite a few endorsements in favor, in some against, but one particular one, a sentence jumped out at me. And this sentence was, you must act, you must take positive, tangible actions to make it happen in your personal, professional, and municipal lives. That's a little chilling to hear that statement come through, that we need to take positive steps in our personal, professional, and municipal lives. That's a very strong statement coming from someone on that committee, that I would hate to see that be imposed right across our boards and commissions in our departments in the town of Bristol, because I can see this turning to policy making. So I'm not in favor of the committee.
Thank you. Colleagues? Other colleagues? Sorry.
I mean, I have sort of somewhat lengthy, I don't usually write my comments down, but I did this time. And so I don't want you to turn the mic off on me.
I don't have that opportunity, nor will I take advantage of it. So
I don't know just what happened to my computer here. So wait a sec, something just happened. Okay, I'm back. Okay, sorry. It's revved up hot. So just bear with me, because I just want to give a number of examples of things where I think that this work can be done. I don't think any of us are foolish enough to think that Bristol is a perfect place. There are no perfect places. There are no perfect people in this world. We all just work hard to be the best that we can, and we try hard. And I think that we have been caught up so much in this terrible negative climate of name calling. And I know nationally it's been on both sides, but in Bristol it has been just awful. I can't believe that I've seen people calling the council racist because we made a decision to support the fact that we could support two groups and not just one, and could balance that in our minds. I never thought I'd see people demanding to know who goes to a public meeting when everybody has a right to go to a meeting and to participate in any group that they want. And I have to say that I was exceptionally concerned when we got an email. I mean, many of the people who spoke here tonight are not everybody, and the materials in the council docket, there were letters of support, and I believe there was one opposed that was attached to the proposal, but that doesn't sort of come close to the number of people who have written us or called us on both sides of this issue. And to hear people say, I had two people say to me that they would not, one person I was speaking to who had been in politics in the past, and I said, talking about some of the different issues, and I said, you should come to this meeting and make a comment, or if it passes, go be, apply to be on the committee. And they're like, oh, no way. I can't get into that. I have business. I can't do it. These people are so divisive. And then I had another person who did speak out at another forum and, has had serious ramifications in his life. And I can just say that myself, that after the last meeting that we had, now it didn't really get to quote cancel culture of canceling me and making me lose my job, but the person basically took a shot at me because she actually misunderstood what I said and told me and wrote me an email and dragged my work into it. Very inappropriate, very upsetting, and very disheartening because the person doesn't even know me, doesn't know anything about what I do or what I care about and what I've spent many, many years doing. So I've had my own personal experience with this way of going about things. And it is quite disturbing. And that's why I wonder that how this would work, because I don't see all of us, like all of the, not us, but all of the proponents on the same page as I mentioned earlier. And some of the people that people say, some of the stories that we just heard from some of the immigrant community members and some of the other people who have friends that have been, the police have come in and asked them for information and so forth. I mean, no, that is not right. But here's the thing. We have in Bristol gotten and been an immigrant community forever, for years and years and years and years. I remember in high school when there was a huge immigration from the Azores, and everything in Bristol was bilingual. I mean, you go to the bank, and everything was in Portuguese and in English. Or you go to any store, and any smart business owner learned how to speak Portuguese pretty darn quick. And so we try to be welcoming, and if people have an issue, they should come to the council. And I think everybody who has spoken is certainly articulate enough, or to not necessarily have to come to a public meeting, but to come to a meeting or call one of us or raise their concern. And so, as I said, I'm concerned that, many people don't value other people's opinions. What I was going to say is, when you talk about how we all have to have the conversation and people call people out or they call on their neighbor, there's a person who has some disabilities and mental health issues who is in downtown Bristol all the time. And I see him, we all know him, he's, can chat with him and so forth, but I have seen people walk away or walk across the street because they're afraid of this person. So, we have to do something to address all that. And I agree that we need to figure out how do we talk to each other? How do we, learn about each other? I find it fascinating and interesting to learn about other cultures, to learn about other people. But it doesn't mean that the people who most need to hear it are going to come to any of these sessions in these discussions that we would have. I'm also not, and I don't mean this actually to some of the members of the work group. I only know some of those members. I know how hard some of them work, and I know how well intentioned they are. But I'm not sure that the proponents in general are actually ready for the responsibility of representing the town council on a board or commission, simply because of the rhetoric that has gone on in the last several months. And I think it is very, very, as I said, concerning. And I also want to say that many people that are proponents of this and who want to have inclusion and having a quote unquote seat at the table are people who have never applied that I know of or to any of our boards and commissions. And we're always looking for members, and we're always open for to new people coming on board. So I spent some time, I didn't mean those few paragraphs that I'd written to be that lengthy, but so I had spent some time, a great deal of time actually, talking to a lot of people on this subject, because this subject is actually, believe it or not, near and dear to my heart. But as I mentioned earlier, the issue of is it best at this point to be a arm of the town council or official committee, or is it better to just start off as a citizens group? And so I did some research on this myself, and I found some interesting things around the country. And I think there was one group in Colorado that came up with this toolkit that talked about the definitions of diversity, and it comes from Keppela Hines in Searby. And what they talked about, which is not included in what we have here, is encompassing the different characteristics that make one individual or group different from another, including but not limited to gender identity, nationality, socioeconomic status, education, physical appearance, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, language, learning styles, disability, ability, age, or political perspectives. And I thought that political perspectives comment as part of that definition is fascinating, because that is not something that we have seen in the last several months that people are open to in this community. So this whole proposal has led me to think about how else can the goals be achieved? And if the proponents are truly about the work and making a difference, rather than amassing some sense of power or control, the structure of the group should not really make a difference. So I just wanted to take a few well, it's going to be more than a second, okay? I'm sorry, but to be successful, and if interested individuals get involved, there are many big projects, and I think there's a sense that if they're not a town council sponsored or approved organization, nothing will get done. And there have been many, many, many enormous projects in Bristol that have come to us as a result of people in the community coming together and working on a topic and then coming to us. And this is not a complete list. I just want to give some examples. It's not a complete list by any means, and I keep thinking of more and more things to say, but I'm going to try not to. So on your number one, the programs, festivals, cultural activities. There are already many organizations, as you know, in town. Some of them have been referenced. We're always open to additional activities. We have picked up a number of them because of our openness, such as the Black Strips Festival, when Newport no longer wanted that. Rather than another committee, why not participate as a member of the 4th of July committee or the Christmas Festival committee to organize a subcommittee on cultural diversity? For example, during the holiday season, why not have an event or events on how other cultures celebrate the holiday season? If not wanting to focus on Christmas around the world, since it's a Christian holiday, maybe take a look at how and why different cultures celebrate their New Year's at different times. Our New Year's Day in our calendar is pretty boring if you're not a football fan. And so why not have an event or a series of events to educate people about the Jewish, Chinese, Hmong, et cetera, of the different New Years? bullet number 2 on Bristol's role in the fate of indigenous people and the trade of enslaved people. And I'm not sure some people know the various things that we have going on. The Bristol appoints representatives to the Waypoiset Trust to oversee the preservation of the Poconoco ancestral lands on Narrows Road here in town. We have 3 members, as does the tribe and the Narrows Improvement Association. The Poconoco tribe, as you probably know, is part of the Wampanoag Nation. The seat of King Philip is off of Tower Road and is sacred lands owned by Brown University. For many years, there was a museum on this tribal land, and it was very wonderful to have that in town and school groups to be able to use it. It's since moved to Providence, closer to the Brown campus. We all worry very, very much what will happen to that land if Brown ever decides to sell. I believe there are opportunities to collaborate with the Waypoiset Trust to address some of the issues regarding our indigenous population. And I also came across a booklet, and I don't know how to do it. Well, I know how to cut and paste it, let's put it that way, from here from my regular stuff to the chat. But there was a booklet actually written by Roger Williams University students on the Poconoco tribe. Further, the role of Bristol residents in the slave trade. Just the other day, a group of local citizens, and Mary Ann Birkenholz mentioned this, sent an email to us that the Friends of Historic Bristol, again, another citizen organization, has engaged the services of the International Coalition of Sites of Conscience to independently lead a summit of Bristol stakeholders about whether to or how to memorialize the town's history related to the slave trade. This will be coming up in early February. The Bristol Historical Society, again, a local nonprofit, is well funded, and I'm sure, and I know, interested in working on these 2 aspects of Bristol's history. Several years ago, the Veterans Council, also a community group, came to the town with an idea to build a Veterans Memorial Garden. That is located in, as you may know, behind, adjacent to the town hall, behind the Burnside building. They worked with the town administrator at the time, the council, to refine and sell the idea, identified funding, and made it a reality. When the town considered leasing the Wally School, a group of citizens formed to persuade the council to let this group, which became Arts in Common, have the opportunity to develop the school into an arts center. The council worked with the organization to make it a reality, or the concept a reality. Unfortunately, the funding didn't work out. Members of the Rotary Club, Bristol Rotary, were interested in expanding opportunities for children, parents of children on the autism spectrum to have more youth and parenting classes here in the community. The Rotary reached out to the school department, the town council, the local newspaper, and others to form a subcommittee or a work group with the Rhode Island Autism Project to make this happen. Instead of parents having to go to Johnston during dinner rush hour, these activities were held in one of our schools in our school district. Everyone worked together to make it a reality. Essentially, it turned out to be a pilot program for the Rhode Island Autism Project that proved to be successful. This laid the groundwork for them to receive $1 million grant to replicate the model throughout the state. We have a HEZ, a health equity zone in Bristol, that looks at social determinants of health and identifies ways to serve underrepresented groups in the wellness and health areas. The HEZ has brought Rhode Island Rhody Fresh to our senior housing to make it easy to purchase fresh fruits and vegetables, sponsors monthly cooking demonstrations on healthy eating, providing the first 40 to 50 people with groceries to make the dish. The HEZ identifies substance abuse as a critical issue and established your local recovery center, which again served as a model for HEZs around the state. When COVID hit, the HEZ served as a resource for the state for local information. Other groups such as Hope in Maine, Bristol Senior Center have all worked together to ensure food security for our most vulnerable citizens. Hope in Maine has provided tens of thousands of meals through this pandemic in a program called Nourish Your Neighbor. And it's a basically buy one, give one program. Explore Bristol is a community group started to increase tourism and support the local economy and local businesses. Many subcommittees have worked to establish a destination wedding, Bristol as a destination wedding location, and has also worked with a New York-based PR firm to promote Bristol as a great place to live, work, play, and visit. I think a group on cultural and ethnic diversity to host events would be more than welcome within the structure of the Explore Bristol. Bullet 3, to some degree, on the conversations. Our churches and synagogue, which represent 6 denominations here in Bristol, are active in providing forums for different conversations. I can only personally speak to my parish, which is St. Mary's here in Bristol, and a number of members have worked. One of our members worked with friends from other parishes to put together a program to learn about the different houses of worship, both the religious aspect and the information on historic buildings, the stained glass windows, etc., going back as far as the 1700s. We used to have at St. Mary's a group called Alive that learned and discussed contemporary issues such as immigration. St. Mary's has also sponsored a discussion, and this has all been public. The reason I'm saying all these things is all of this has been, people have all been invited to come to all of these things. It's all been out there. To a discussion with a young man who grew up in the parish and was once studying to be a Catholic priest and later converted to Islam. He offered his experiences and compared the religions. It was a wonderful opportunity to talk about these very issues. And I'm kind of thinking that the Alive group needs to be rekindled, and these topics are perfect for that kind of work. I also wanted to mention, because we talked about it earlier in the meeting, housing. We saw a need in the community. We have Bristol Housing Authority, of course. We also started what was the Bristol Foundation, now the East Bay Housing Development Corporation, that is, worked on the Kaiser complex to turn that into housing. Has a number of other low, moderate income housing throughout the town, and had a big fight to get affordable housing in Barrington. We have welcome packets. Somebody mentioned welcome packets. Our harbor master distributes welcome packets to all people coming in through the boating, through his marine center. And I think that is another place that we can get this information out there. I guess my point is that I also want to finally note that we fund our mental health center in our East Bay CAP agency that supports health and dental care for low-income Bristolians, provides heating assistance, education, Head Start programs for our residents. All of this is to point out and reiterate that the work proposed for a council-appointed committee is taking place in many other forums and can be successfully done as a community group. I could go on, but there is so much going on. But there's so much going on that this group can link with without establishing or duplicating services. We need to leverage our resources, including people resources, to make Bristol an even better community. Basically, I'm not sure we need to duplicate, but I can see the work group and the DEI sort of fanning out and becoming parts of what is already going on and adding and enriching what is already going on. And I think that can be done as a community organization. And that is my comments. As a great deal of thought and research that I have done on this, I just don't think it's appropriate at this time to have a council approved entity. And I think it will just serve to be even more divisive than we already have. I know that that's not the intent. And I know there are many, many, many people who have worked on this that are extremely sincere about it. But I think we can do it. And as it can be done as a community group. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, my colleagues, for listening. As I said, I talk a lot, but I don't usually write it all down. So.
Thank you.
You're always thorough, Councilwoman Carlo. We appreciate it.
Tim? Mr. Chairman? Oh, one moment. I want to give everybody an opportunity. Tim?
No, I just want to say, Councilwoman Carlo, we always appreciate your thoroughism on this. I think we need to clarify. I don't think this in the motion that this is any way needs to be a board or commission. I think this should be maybe an ad hoc group with a sunset term of 1.5 years to explore, to see, bring faith-based institutions together and do the charge of the mission, everything that's stated in the charge. But I do want to just clarify that, because I heard that there would talk of, changing policies, and the group would be involved with changing policies and things like that. That would be up to us to give them that charge of that. We would not be giving them any power. Our town, we are the town council as a whole. So I just wanted to bring that up because I just wanted to clarify. That's all. And just to be sure everybody's on the same page. Thank you.
Aaron?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Aaron Lay in response to Councilman Sweeney. I certainly just laid out the motion out there. It's open for amendment. And so if there's anybody that would like to amend something like this to make it an ad hoc committee, just as the other ad hoc committees that we've had out there, the recycling committee, and then maybe some of the others that we've had in the past. And then there might be that possibility of adding the sunset clause on that, where it would have to be approved after 1 year. And I think if that was the way that we move forward with this, there is it's positive in both ways. If this group is wildly successful, we might want to continue their efforts after 1 year. But at the same time, this group might decide that, hey, look, working with the town really kind of slows us down a little bit. We might want to, do this as a private organization afterwards. Then that might be their option after 1 year if they do it that way. I just wanted to lay that out there and say that when I laid out my motion, I expected anything like that to be fair game, and I'm open to any kind of amendments if anybody wants to make them. Now, I want to tell you a little bit why I support this. I did speak a little bit about the type of work that these individuals did to it, to put together this charge and the mission. But another thing that I think, from my standpoint, is that I hear a lot of people talk about how we as individuals are supposed to be able to research and find information and everything like that. But as a legislative body in Bristol, our greatest currency that we have is information. And so the more information that we have, the better decisions that we're going to be able to make. And it's not just information that might be coming from a diversity committee, but it could be information coming from a number of other boards or commissions or anything like that as well. And so having a group like this where we could turn to and say, hey, look, what would be the perspective of, people who are not able-bodied? Maybe they would have some resources that would be able to point us in the direction of where we would be able to find information so that we as individual members of the town council can make better, more reasoned, deliberative decisions. So from my standpoint, I would like that, because I will admit that I have blind spots. I have blind spots when it comes to some of the obstacles that are faced by people who are not able-bodied. I have blind spots with respect to the experiences of people who are LGBTQ, and I have blind spots that pertain to gender and race and everything else. And so I have heard a lot of people talk about this kind of being more of a race thing more than anything else. But there's a whole lot of other intersectional characteristics that we would be able to touch on with a committee like this. So with that being said, let's not forget that on September 30th, we sent this committee to work with the town solicitor. And we asked them to put together a charge, and they worked hard. And this is a group of people that aren't out there to make trouble or anything like that. These are very committed folks who put a lot of heart and soul into the development of this. And so I say, let's give them a chance. Let's give them a year. Let's give them a year, and then let's make a decision as to whether we can put a sunset clause on it and make a decision about whether to continue on their efforts if they have a lot more work to do.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Councilman Perella, for pointing out all the resources that we currently have already available throughout the community. It certainly is numerous, the amount of possibilities. My suggestion would be, if to go in the direction, I would say, why doesn't the committee go out and explore with these various groups and then come back to us? There's various resources available already. Why duplicate any efforts? Why not check out, the current organizations? How could they benefit from some of the expertise of some of these folks that are already? I certainly would like to see many of these go out and explore that, and familiarize themselves and maybe find out that, well, do we really need to go in that direction, or can we still achieve any of those goals through the current organizations already in place and not create division and duplication? Because some of these folks are going to go, well, what are they doing? We already doing that. Why are they getting in the way of things that we're doing? So I hesitate very great, to go forward with the committee. And I would recommend that they go out and explore that, come back to us again.
Thank you. So I'm going to, and Mary, I'm going to end comment here.
You've been very patient, but I appreciate it. First of all, I just wanted to make one quick correction about the recycling committee. As far as my recollection is that was not a town group. That was its own group that worked, another group of interested citizens around a topic that got together and then came back and made recommendations to the council. Number one. So that, I just want to be clear about that. I did not give you all the resources and all the potential collaborations and intersection points, Tony. I only tried to highlight a few. But I will say, Aaron, in relation to your comment, I would see it exactly the opposite. If they get started as their own group and then link with all these other community organizations, and they continue as a community organization, and they do astoundingly well, they can come back in a year or two and say, I think this is great. We really think it would be even better to be a town sponsored, an official town committee. I see it the other way. Like, if you're going to get started and you're not sure if something's going to work, they'd be way better off starting it on their own than us having to do it. And also, somebody pointed out an interesting comment to me, which I had never thought about, and it's kind of true for many of our groups. And that is, if we have 12 people on it, or 13 or 9 or whatever people, that is the committee. They could maybe engage others to help out on a project, but if they're on their own, like the Christmas festival or 4th of July or any of those others, there's always new people coming in to help out and to engage, and it's actually more open and more possibilities to engage more people in the work that they're doing. So those are just my last comments.
Okay, so I'm going to call for...
Mr. Chairman, can I respond to?
Of course you can. Go ahead. Of course.
Obviously, I respect everything that the councilwoman says. This organization right now is a private organization. They already exist as a private organization. And if they wanted to continue to exist as a private organization, and they would not have come to us to ask us to be part of the town. And so right now, that's really where we're at with this decision right here.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to call for a vote just in a moment here. First, Councilman Perella. Wow, dude, talk about a great list. And as you pointed out, it's not exhausted, but there are so many more there. But I think we forget sometimes what a absolutely tremendous community that we live in. As this meeting started off at 7:15 or so, because we had technical problems, recall the administrator was talking about the tax rates, reminded us all, and obviously it's the council that ultimately approves the budget, but not without massive work from the administrator and the department heads. Our tax rate being one of the lowest in the state, even though you just gave an exhaustive list of all, and that's not everything that we do. that's just in keeping with this conversation this evening.
That's mostly driven by community groups that come to us with great ideas and great work.
That's exactly right. I mean, and you pointed out some local churches, particularly St. Mary's. I know for myself, I would not win highest attendance award for church, but that doesn't mean it's not important to me and my family. That is a great example of some of the phenomenal groups that are out there and the people willing to give back. I thank all the time, every single meeting for all of us, the boards and commissions and the people who are interested in being part of it. I'm going to go a little bit dark and then I'll come back to a brighter spot. It was said a little bit earlier about being uncomfortable to speak this evening. It was understated. I had a multitude of people reach out to me, not uncomfortable, but truly afraid to speak their mind. And they weren't vindictive. They weren't strong-minded. They were just concerned to even ask a question of how that would look. And I know we all represent all of Bristol. That includes the people that are that afraid. And I got to tell you, I don't often, actually, I can't remember besides maybe a neighborhood dispute that someone said to me, I'm afraid to speak on this. Now, that's not a reflection of the membership of the proposed committee and what's being petitioned in front of us. It's a reflection of where does this go? There's been some great questions this evening, talking about what it is it's charged. Things that I did not get an answer to was I did not hear an issue. Not one person said to me, now let me clarify that, throughout this evening that the town isn't doing something that it should be doing. In fact, people that were proponents of it were talking about the town is doing an excellent job. And let's be really clear. Perfection is a journey. You never get there, right? We're always trying to be better and better. But not one person said the town dropped the ball here. The town should have, but did not. The town should have done more. The town totally let somebody down. There were comments at our last meeting about a person feeling, and rightfully so, very uncomfortable at a local grocery store because of a look and a glare. And that is absolutely something that I would feel uncomfortable with. So I'm not downplaying its importance, but we don't legislate for that. So if this committee were to be put in place by this council, then we don't tell people you can't do that. So that was just one example of many that were brought up, and they're real issues. Please do not take it as I am downplaying their importance. But how does it weigh in as the council makes its decisions? I did not hear a proposed remedy because there was no proposed issue. I do believe we can always be better. I do suggest that this group stay together. And Mary, you captured it well, and others also captured it well. There are so many opportunities to give back, whether it's a board or commission from that is from the town, or one of the many other organizations that are out there. So I hope that they do, because this council has proven, look at the time that we've spent on this item, that we are willing to listen, and we will take in all thoughts on it, and we will continue to do that. So if this committee or this group of people proposing the committee or anyone from them has suggestions, this council has been open, will continue to be open. And I speak for the administrator, and that the administrator is open for it, the clerk is open to it, that we're always open for opportunities for betterment. As you can hear from the tone, I will not be voting for this for all the reasons that I've stated. I'm concerned about where it goes. I don't believe that the people that were involved were looking for nefarious purposes or anything else. But I do believe that if I had enough, I can't even tell you how many calls I got in emails of asking me not to vote for this because of X. We also, and to be fair, got a lot of emails asking me to support it too. But the division and the derision that it's caused from it is exactly the opposite of what the stated goal is. So I will not be voting for the formation of this committee by this council, but I do support their positive actions, whether they stay a group themselves or they get involved with other groups. Mary made some great points that I won't restate. So.